Hello, I didn't see you there. I'm just enjoying this beautiful day, sitting on this incredibly easy to build DIY garden bench with table, just enjoying a good book. If you want to be as happy as I am, or better yet, you want your spouse to be as happy as my spouse is while she's sitting on this bench enjoying a good book, stick around for a few minutes. Follow along with the easy build, or better yet, check the description below for a link to the build plans and use those to follow along and enjoy a wonderful afternoon such as this. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. First of all, you're going to need 9 1x4x8s, 9 2x4x8s, 1 cup of extra strong coffee, 1 set of build plans that you can get with a link below to my Etsy store. Let's get started. All right, let's start off with cutting some 1x4s. This is for the seat and back. Oop. You ever get the feeling like you're being watched when you're all alone in the wood shop? Happens to me a lot. Didn't have as much before I started making videos. Now this is the time where I like to sit back and ponder the more interesting questions of the universe, like why do we drive on a parkway and park in a driveway? I don't know. If anybody has an answer to that, leave it in a comment below. Alright, back to work. Let's cut some 2x4s. Now what I do on the ones that I can't use my stop is obviously just cut one and use it to mark. But if you use the first one that you cut, it eliminates any compound errors. Now, looking around like, why is my shop so dirty? Now, let's rip some legs. First of all, you need to use your little Wixie gauge angle finder. I won't cut anything without. And I'm happy about it. So let's have some boring shots of me ripping 2x4s. I typically start off with cutting it at about 3 1/4 to take the round over off one side, and then move into the 1.5 inches. I have all of my pieces cut out, so just slide them on out of the way, make room for a pocket hole jig. Well, this is the K5. I like this a lot better than the K4. The K4 had the handle on the back. When you cut in 2x4s, it's not a big deal, but when you start cutting pieces of plywood or whatever that you're putting the holes in, it's just a lot easier to get to. Plus this one has dust collection. So, and more questions of the universe. Like, I wonder if people are enjoying this video. Alright, let's start putting our legs together. Now, this is one of only 2 parts of this entire build that you actually have to think about. What I do is I measure up from the bottom 10 inches, put a little glue on for a little extra. Then I put my brace with that mark to the very top of each side. Now these braces are cut at 15 degrees, so just what I like to do is I put 1 screw in each side, and I can line it up a little bit better from there. And I found that if you put the screw on the outside or the bottom like that, it gives you a little bit more of adjustment. I'm using my Milwaukee fuel impact that I hate. But if you've seen my review, you understand why I hate it. Now, this is a stretcher from the table that we're gonna be building later. So what I do is I use it as a spacer, right? Because it's exactly 3.5 inches. Then as I put this together, I can kind of fine tune my angles and exactly where I want them. It's not exact science, but this is not fine furniture by any stretch of the imagination. You know, this is outdoor furniture that's going to get rained on and kids are going to knock over, and whether or not my grandchildren can't knock these over, they're too small, but I'm sure they will at some point. Now I want to measure this out and get it centered so that I know that it's in the right place, and check my angles based on my bottom brace that I've got. Tap it around with the tape measure, double check it. I have found that the easiest way to measure this correctly, because you've got an angle, is if you put your tape measure on the stretcher and run it down, it'll kind of keep it in line, and that way you're not guessing. Now I put the other screws in the bottom to hold it in place. Double check my measurements, just make sure it's still centered. And what I do here is I take a pencil and I'll mark out where it is, so I know exactly where to put my glue. I actually have a jig made for this because I build a lot of these, but knowing that no one else is going to have that watching this video, I did it the old way. Now, let's build the seat. What we're going to do is I'm going to find the exact center, put the center brace in, more coffee. I wonder if people will hit like or subscribe to this if they enjoy this. You could be one of those people that do. So now, let's get a big part of this built. This is simple. It's just a little clumsy in the beginning. But all I'm doing is I'm taking the legs, obviously, and just putting this center section in and holding it together with clamps so it's in the right spot. Make sure everything is good. And then I come through and drive some screws. I like to go in 2 from each side, and then go 2 from the front and the back into the brace of the arms or legs. Simple, simple. Now the back pieces. These are cut a little bit different, and I've tried this every way that you could possibly imagine. Measuring and marking and different, everything you could think of. But I have found the best way to make these correct is you put in one right. You just match up the bottom with the bottom of the lower stretcher. The second one, I'm going to put 1 screw in. I'm going to try to do it in the middle, or what is mostly the middle. I put 1 screw in, I keep it held with the clamp, Well, just stand back and look at it. Because regardless of what any kind of tool or measure or anything does, it's going to end up just, how it looks. Tap it down a little bit. It's my junky Milwaukee. And if I'm happy with it, add some screws. I'm doing 2 into the top brace and 2 into the bottom brace. Did not use glue here because just never felt like it was necessary. Now, I also run a screw in through the back. That's not necessary either, but I tend to overdo things. Now, your bottom brace. Put this in here to keep it from racking. Keeps it super solid. Just run 2 screws in. Sometimes I'll put 2 screws in from the bottom brace into the end grain of that brace, but it's not necessary. And more coffee. Right now I'm wondering, are you getting any value from this video? If you are, comment, let me know how much value you're getting. Now let's start with the seat. Really simple, 1x4s. Pop them in with some finished nails. I'll use 3/8 inch bolts here as spacers. I've kind of got this drawn out so these work perfect. I'll draw all my own plans. Use SketchUp. Sell those plans on Etsy. There'll be a link to my Etsy store in the description. Now for this, I want a little bit bigger, so I've got 2x4s that I cut 1 inch long. I use that as a spacer. I don't know, I just think it looks better with a bigger gap there. And it's a little tight. But use the bolts here also. Now these last 3 pieces are longer. They're 1.5 inches longer on either side. That's going to be even with the legs. Just kind of makes it look a little more purposeful, I guess. Now your last piece. It's only goes up, though, your back braces only go up about 3/4 of the way through that. But I like the way that looks instead of trying to have it even. Now your arms. I understand that glue is not going to do anything here, but I put it on there anyway. And now I'm just enjoying my bench. Okay, let's build a table. Anytime you use any kind of pocket hole joinery at all, these little Craig clamps here are fantastic. I wouldn't even attempt to try it without them at this point. I'll leave a link to those in the description. Now, we're almost done, guys. Now my long stretcher here, I'm just going to put this clamp on it. Make sure it's exactly like I want it to be. And start putting pocket hole screws in. And they do work better if you hold them in your mouth. Now again, finding the center. With the 1x4s, they're the length of this, the ones in the center, if you don't have this brace in, they're just real wobbly and flopping around, and you're not going to be happy with it. Now this is not quite wide enough to put these in with just your drill. So I've got this little 90-degree angle from DeWalt. Works great in these situations. I'll throw a link to it in the description as well. And for the top. And with everything else, as with everything else, I can't speak today. As with everything else on this build, I don't really like to measure this top out to try to figure it out. I find it to do just as well, if not better, about putting it in place and see how it feels and how it looks. Pop them in again with some finish nails. And you can stand on it. As you can see, I'm a big guy and I can stand on this table. No problem. Never had any problems with it. And thumbs up. And now I'm thinking, I sure hope everyone likes and shares and subscribes. If you do, thumbs up. Okay guys, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you followed along and can enjoy a good book on a beautiful day outside. So hit the subscribe button to see what we've got coming up next. We have lots of fun projects coming up. And if you like this video, hit the like button and check out some of these videos floating around my head for something else that we've already done. Thank you.